Every night, thousands of player and team props hit the books. Edgeboard runs every single one through advanced simulations built on years of historical data and services the few with the real statistical edge. Tap any prop to unlock the deep matchup data behind it. We cover every major sports league with more being added all the time. Want a parlay? Choose your book, your legs, your leagues, and how aggressive you want it. Edgeboard auto-builds the strongest ticket for you. Try it free for 7 days. After that, just $9.99 a month. Edgeboard. Find your edge.
使える。
Every night, thousands of player and team props hit the books. Edgeboard runs every single one through advanced simulations built on years of historical data and services the few with the real statistical edge. Tap any prop to unlock the deep matchup data behind it. We cover every major sports league with more being added all the time. Want a parlay? Choose your book, your legs, your leagues, and how aggressive you want it. Edgeboard auto-builds the strongest ticket for you. Try it free for 7 days. After that, just $9.99 a month. Edgeboard. Find your edge.
testing our mic. It looks like it's recording there. Let's check here, see what we got going on. Mic audio. 1, 2, check. Stream here, so I'm not sure. Let me know, chat, if you're on the chat to check, but I do believe that the mic is functioning and we're good. All right. Not sure what was going on. Well, we're not going to go over that again because we are in a testing phase. At this point, what we did there, we did a recap. We talked about how we're going live August 1st. We talked about how we are going to accommodate, how we are going to be very quick to make fixes. So we've got some new members that want PGA. We've added PGA. We talked about how points and assists escaped us the other night. There we go. We get that added in. So we did the recap. I'm not going to bore you with all that. We talked a little bit about where we hit, where we missed. We talked about adding the blowout potential specifically with that Minnesota-Toronto game, and that's essentially what happened there. So anyway, let's look at a couple props here today. One of the things, I'm going to be honest, again, I am not a WNBA expert. I clearly said this last night. We talked about it, by the way. There you go. A nice another feature of this site. It has live scoring, live updates. It's really a nice tool there. You can click on any game and it literally takes you to live props, showing you another feature we offer there. But back to WNBA tonight. I do have one boost in the WNBA streets. So we are going to go ahead and look at what's out there for this slate. One of the things I always recommend is, for myself, I'm not a WNBA expert. So sometimes I will listen, see who's out there, see what they're pointing out. And then I take that and I use it as a source to compare. So for one of the games tonight, Jordan Canada was pointed out talking about assist. Let's see what we think about this. It is one of our top props. When I heard it mentioned, I said, okay, let's take a look. Researching this, right off the bat, I kind of like it, right? We're showing almost a 60% sim, a 10% EV edge. What's my favorite bets out there? Anytime you're giving me 60% sim probability with 10% EV and plus money, hell yeah, sign me up. Now, what could derail this? We're going to look head to head, see where she sits there. What are we talking about? Well, defense for Seattle, bottom 25%, top 50% in pace. So good and, great and good, I would say. Their opponent assist percentage, I'll have to look at that, talk to my dev. I guess I want to make sure that means that that's 13 out of 15 for us. I don't know if that's what that means, to be honest. That stat's got me a little confused. Career against Seattle, though, look, that's got me a little concerned, right? Last matchup crushes it, a little below it there. So, there is some cause that says no bet's ever a rock solid bet, especially when you're saying that Vegas clearly thinks that this is plus money. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and look at this one. I'm going to look at one other actually, just because again, the things I see, I like, we are getting mixed signals. Recent form looks good. She is at home is good. Again, the site is kind of following what the experts said. There was one other that we'll take a quick look at. We're going to look at Jessica Shepard. She is a points and rebounds demon. What are we probably focusing on? Do we look at just her rebounds? Do we look at points and rebounds? Interestingly enough, one of the categories, and I might pass this on to my dev, that I think we want to start looking at is adding, especially going into the NBA season. So I'm going to make a note because, like I said, we're growing this site. Edgeboard goes live tomorrow. You're going to see a lot of action here in the near future, big growth. You're going to see a lot more interaction online. This has all been a soft opening where we're just testing out some things. But what we're going to do here, we're going to get the double and triple added in here. I'm going to talk to my dev about that. The dub, trip dub. We need to get those added as part of our props. For her, let's just look at this from a point standpoint, right? Point standpoint, 60% chance to go over 13.5 points. Again, some mixed signals. Why do we have some concern here? Again, she's 16, 7, 18, 13, 11. So from a double standpoint, she's actually hit it all but one game for that. What's a little bit of the concern? We got a top 25% defense and a bottom 25% in pace. I'm not quite sure why it's saying that that's a green light because, that's not ideal. Dallas themselves is top 50%, bottom 50%. We don't really care about that. What we're really looking at is what is our opponent doing here? And that's not good, right? So I think this is saying versus Washington, Dallas is. This is versus this Washington lineup. So why is this saying there's some cause for concern? Is this team specifically is probably going to put on some good defense and try to slow it down. Anyway, the point being, points 13.5 is the spread. Rebounds 11.5 is the spread. So we look at this and we look at what has she done rebounds. 14. She clearly had a bad game there. That game against, I think that's Connecticut. Jesus, that's how little I know. 15, 16, 14, 10. So interesting there is, do we look at what does the double offer there? Now, what do we compare against our other matchup? I think that the Canada matchup is a more favorable matchup. I think both of these look like good props. I mean, again, anytime I'm getting strong EV, that's what I'm looking for. This one, not as strong on the odds, right? But again, we have that boost. So let's just take a gander at this. I'm just curious what this looks like. Jessica Shepard. What are we thinking in double territory here today? Oh, okay. Well, that shut that down. It was a lot worse than I thought. I was kind of hoping we had a stronger prop. I don't know. Maybe this is something to look at. Again, I hate to bet something that we're not offering on the Edgeboard. So look, folks, it's going to be there. I can promise you that. Our dev team is amazing. We're going to add the dub, the trip dub. We're going to start taking a look at that. It's minus 179 on DraftKings, minus 210 on FanDuel. The boost was on FanDuel, so they're not even going to let me bet that because it's such crappy odds. They're going to make DraftKings has a 3-team parlay boost. Yeah, you know what? You get me in the NBA streets, folks. We are going to do some crushing. I promise you that. WNBA, I'm going to avoid. So we're going to avoid the double. Let's go back to just looking at points and rebounds as a combo package. What we're saying here, 61% chance to go heavy on boards. Maybe we should look back at this just again from a team specific standpoint. So again, some mixed signals. Crushed it here in May. And then this is going apparently way back. So, all right, look, again, when we talk about head to head, I'm not going to use 2023 stats. So did she crush them in May? This is a top defense team. So, hey, look, rebounds. One thing about it is you've got a border here. Hit it 70% of the chance, 70% of the time. We're giving this positive EV. When you talk about a tough defensive team, rebounds actually come out to me better. right? To me, that's a good one. So minus 130 boards alone, I'm kind of thinking that might be the move. And let this girl cook on the boards here at 11.5 with a 61% chance there. So that is our FanDuel. Again, it's not the best odds because we're looking specifically at the boost. That's what FanDuel is offering on that. We're going to go back to Canada. We're going to review her assist. Again, this looks like it's a more favorable matchup, close to 60%. Gotta love the plus money call here. Let's see what the FanDuel specific odds are to this one. And again, this is kind of what we're just using to compare. So 8.5. Now on something like this is again where we talk about a binary versus non-binary. Basketball, very non-binary, is what you're looking at is what is the difference between 8.5 assists and 7.5 assists. We're not plucking out an alt line on this. So while my devs, I'm taking notes about dubs and trip dubs. I'm a little surprised we're not offering alt lines on this one. I think we want to look at that. It could be that the site's working on that, but we're really wanting to look at maybe, does the alt line make more sense when we have that juice? If we're giving it 60% over 8.5, I can't imagine how strong it is at 7.5. Now, when you talk about just general positive EV, negative EV betting, when you're talking plus money versus the spread is a minus 178, right? Huge difference. And you're going to see that when you talk these. I would never, if you're straight betting this, you're just an idiot to say, oh, I just want to win the bet. I'll be honest with you. Like, this is how you have to understand this: price and probability. Minus 178 at a 7.5 assists versus the 8.5 on plus money. You're better just always trying to get that plus money. Now, in this case, the minus 178, let's just look at it from a boost standpoint, and it's a 25% profit boost. So not as strong as I'd hoped. That does bump it up to minus 141. My dev actually commented to me. He says right now our data sources are offering very little in the point of alt lines. So if we can't get the alt line pulled in off of our data source, it's going to make hard to tell us what we think the prediction is. I know this enough. This isn't that uncommon. I think, when I look at this 7.5 versus that 8.5, if I wasn't getting the boost, I probably wouldn't be interested. But what do we know? She was 50-50 here. She played them July 9th and got 8 assists. We don't win the plus money bet. Here she got 10 assists. So, this is where I kind of go back to, what do we think here, folks, against the lineup? I think I like this as a bit of a more favorable matchup. Man, I'm torn, really. I think that you could go with either of these and have success. I don't know if I'd go with this as the plus money, even with us saying strong, just because I'm getting a boost. Do we go the minus 141 on 7.5, or do we go the minus 130 on Jessica Shepard boards? I really wanted to go that double-double. I was sad to see that was minus 175. Now, again, boosted, that's going to come out to roughly the same. I'll tell you what, we're going to just stick with Canada tonight. We're going to go for her to dish out the assist. She is clearly their number one usage assist player on the team, consistently getting them. Again, 8 last night, so she still would hit because of what we're doing here. So she's hit it 5 straight, 6 straight, 7 straight, 8 out of 9. We're going to go with that. We're going to, this is again, where it's different than baseball betting. We're going to go lower on that, but we're going to just try to take what, again, if you take this down to 7.5, this is shooting up to probably 65-70% chance of hitting. So even though this is minus money because it's boosted, we want to take the dub. When we go 0 for 2 yesterday, we don't want to, I got to at least show you that I can plug out here a pick. So I do like both of those. We're going to move on. We took too much time there. Let's head on over to our MLB slate here. It'll probably pop up here in a little bit, some of the basics that it thinks for the day. I'm going to go ahead and I might have already cleared off our daily briefing. I'm already taking too much time. I've shown you folks the daily briefing. Here's what I can tell you. We've got some different conditions that have moved through the country. I would say it's slightly cooler across the country in a lot of parts. It's a little less humid throughout the country. I'm looking at a lot of these run lines. I'm looking at a lot of these matchups, and I'm not in love with a ton for offense. There's probably 2 games here that kind of stuck out to me. Washington at Atlanta. Again, 88 degrees, wind not really a factor. For left-handed bats, it's got some action there. Interesting one, the highest run total of all these is Kansas City at Colorado. So let's just look at some of our team matchups here, what we're predicting. This is the Paul Skeens effect. I thought about this one. I think we're going to pass just because Paul Skeens hasn't quite been Paul Skeens. He's still got an amazing whip. But there's just a couple things that have me concerned. When you look at this, why do we like this? I watched some experts. This was one of the experts' picks as well. So look, we're not going to hate on this. Strong sim, got some EV there, looking good. Some of the games that I was looking at that I found interesting, Washington is facing Atlanta. And I found this very interesting. Look at this. Now, again, how we do money lines, to be honest, the site generally is facing on, well, now I know why it's doing this. I didn't have it highlighted for money lines. My bad, folks. Atlanta versus Washington. We're showing this as Atlanta to win is only a 47.7% favorite, and it's minus 118. So what is that telling you? It's telling you that the Washington spread is actually where it might be at. Where is it popping the Washington side on this? I'm going to talk to my dev too about this, because it does seem like, and I don't know if it's our data source, but it seems like we're only pointing out one side of the equation. And what I'm telling you here is that you've got Washington's ace pitching today in Foster Griffin. You've got a Washington offense that's hot in a ballpark that favors left-hand power on a team that really runs left-hand power against, and here's where I think Vegas is missing this and where I think I see the edge. And we'll look at this when we go to the matchup, but it's against Bryce Eldridge, who was kind of, a name and thinking of it as a stronger pitcher, but his recent form has not been there. So that's one of them I pointed out. I'm curious what it thinks on the totals in general here for this game. I mean, I don't necessarily think that this screams offense on both sides, but I mean, 51% chance to go over 9. Why am I saying I like this again? This is where I think maybe we look at some offense and see where we're at. So, in general, offense gives the favor to Washington. They're calling these starters even. I would tend to agree with that from a full year standpoint, but what we're looking at here is more recent form. And then, of course, the edge going to the Atlanta bullpen. But the other one I really wanted to look at, and I was just curious on, is this Kansas City at Colorado game. It's the over-under 11 runs. Now, this is in Colorado, right? So this is clearly the Colorado effect. But I'll be honest, it's Waka and Sagano, and these are both pitchers to me that have done a pretty good job throughout the year in what I would say suppressing power. Look at this, showing the spread at 11.5. It's literally 50-50. So with that being 50-50, And hold on one second here. It is on there, I'm being told. It says I'm missing the boat. Washington. Well, so that's a Washington plus 1.5 run line. So that's saying, what do we give the chance of Washington if we give them a run? 64% chance. But again, that's only paying minus 190. So the truth is, I'm really just curious about Washington straight up. We're clearly showing that Atlanta is not favored to win this game outright. And from what I was seeing, I believe it's plus money. So that's what really had me interested in that one. So, I mean, look, our data is calling this 50-50 on whether this goes over or under. I would tell you that I lean to the under of this game. So, look, that's just, again, my lean on that. The other game that I think screams out to me, I'm going to go with two more games I want to point out. Let's just look at this from the money line standpoint. Milwaukee facing the Angels. Milwaukee has been a little cold of late. Am I missing this? I don't even, oh, very bottom. So again, on this one, we're showing one side of the equation. The Angels versus Milwaukee, 35.8% chance to win. The big thing I want to point out here is Ryan Johnson doesn't miss any bats at all. I think that maybe we look at Ryan Johnson, some props on him for the under, possibly some Milwaukee bats. I'm not in love with that stadium. It's 78 degrees, no wind. It's not a great power stadium. But I just, to be honest, I just kind of see Milwaukee dominating this game. I think that this pitcher for LA gets beat up quite a bit. I mean, look, here's giving LA a run is still showing this as a 48% chance, even with the run. So look, we want to see if there's EV on the other side. Right now, we're only showing one side of the equation. So I am going to urge our devs, let's see if we can't get the software to show both sides of the equation. What would a Milwaukee minus 1.5 run line look like? Do we think that shows an EV edge? What's the Milwaukee money line looking at there? So that game, I want to point that one out, maybe focusing on the pitcher. And then really the final game I want to point out here to you is this Detroit at Oakland game. I think we got two pitchers here that both like to get hit. Quite frankly, Springs has been getting crushed lately here. We clearly show the advantage to Detroit, even with Oakland getting a run and a half. Again, this version, Oakland, a 36.6% chance to win the game. So let's talk about that, as probably the main focus is going to be some Detroit bats against Jeffrey Springs. I think this game is going to have some offense. It's a 10.5 over under. Over 10.5, 51.7% chance to go over. I tend to like that one. So there's our basics. And again, going back to this game, we like the over of 9 runs, even in LA versus Milwaukee. And when I look at this, I tend to think this is more sided. You're saying over 9 runs, and we're already showing you're giving LA a run, and they're not still going to lose. So we're going to probably focus on the Milwaukee side. So let's go ahead and bring this money or the run line back up here. And I am told that, so maybe I'm looking at this from the wrong direction. Who knows here? Let's look at what this says here if we change this. Yeah, for whatever reason, I'm not pulling this up. We'll go back to the team matchups here. I really didn't want to have to reset our data. It could be because of, no, this usually doesn't get affected by lines, I don't believe. I'll tell you what, we'll reset the data. See what's going on here today. Again, folks, we go live tomorrow. We're going to work throughout the weekend as we continue to improve my streaming as well as what we're offering on the site. So I feel like I've now wasted too much time on this, to be honest. But look, why not? We've reset the data. We pulled this back up. I mean, right now, what are we showing? Washington, you give them a run and a half, they're crushing Atlanta. That's not really our goal there. All right, here we go. So it has pulled back up. Milwaukee run line -1.5 still gives us 52.7% chance to win at -105. We do show this as plus EV. I think that, you know, I was probably leaning more towards what's the Milwaukee money line. So now that I've reset all the data, it looks like that was maybe because I had odds set there. It's -170. Yeah. So yeah. Look, now that I've reset data, probably what I should do from now on when we do our team props, I'm not going to have any of our odds posted out. It's supporting things I thought, right? Milwaukee probably beating the pants off of LA. Detroit probably beating the pants off of Oakland. When you're talking -170, -160, what do I do in this instance? Do you go run line? Do you parlay these two? Do you look at offense and player props? I think all three. I think this is going to be up to your own betting style. I think our software likes some of the things that I saw, just kind of taking my initial gut to this game. Now, I will say Detroit, Springs is a left-handed pitcher, and I would say more of the Detroit power favors their left-hand batters that aren't necessarily great left-on-left guys. So we're going to look at that as we kind of get back to some player props there. You know, what was the other one I was pointing out? Yeah. So this is the one of all of these, if I'm just saying, like, let's look at a money line play of the day. I like this one. I like it. Look at, and this is what I love. I love when I think I get up and before I even get to the site, I'm looking at this site live the first time with you folks. But when I wake up, I just try to do a little research. You know, everyone's got their morning routine. I'm waking up. I look things over, listen to a few things. And this one just smelled weird to me. It's like, hold on a second. Foster Griffin has been their ace. Bryce Elder's been struggling of late. Washington's offense has been hot. The ballpark favors lefty power. Let's be clear on one last thing on this too, by the way. Foster Griffin's a lefty. And Atlanta is also lefty power, but they don't do as well against lefties. So this is another factor. Like if this guy was a right-handed pitcher against that Atlanta lineup that has, so both these teams are very, very similar. You give me a shitty right-handed pitcher against Atlanta's offense, I want those lefties on Atlanta's offense all day long. Atlanta did add Ronald Acuna. He's back off the IL. So this team has gotten a little bit more formidable, but in this one, when I'm getting positive EV, possibly plus money on some sites, we're going to go ahead and make that one of our plays here. In fact, we're going to just go ahead, hop on here. Let's see what we got here. Washington. Let's take us a good old gander, see what's out there. Okay, of course, I typed something wrong. It popped up and then I entered one more than I needed. So positive money on sports, the score.bet, positive money on FanDuel. It's plus 105, plus 102. I'm going to go ahead and take this plus money. We're not going to boost it because I'm already getting plus money. And I really don't think, 51% chance to win. That's not screaming that this is a guarantee, right? If you were going to use the boost, I would say give me Washington with that run that is within the minus 200. I think in this instance, this is just a good half unit play. Anytime you're giving me plus money, again, what's the combo I love? Over 50% positive EV plus money. That's to me called a winning bet. So we're going to go ahead and go with that one. Let's go ahead and head over to some props. Again, I'm not specifically betting one of these yet because I want to take a look more. But if you want to just talk about, hey, I want to place some winning bets, I love these two money lines. Our software loves the two money lines. So there you go, right at the top, right off the bat. I probably screwed all that up because I had these odds picked. So that's my bad. I like to have these odds because in Major League Baseball, I am not a big fan. It's a binary game. I want to find things very close to even money or above, and that our site still says, yep, this is a bet we like. So let's just take a gander at the board as a whole. We already kind of know some of the matchups we like. You know what? I actually want to go up to something else. I want to go to something else here. We're going to head on over to something here. I have not highlighted this before. We call it First Blood, which is kind of fun, right? First Blood. What do you folks know it as? You know it as Yerfy Nerfy Land. Do we score a run in the first inning? Do we not? And Dylan Cease popped up right off the bat. And what do we think here? We think Texas at Houston. By the way, that is another decent run environment. Texas at Houston is, I guess I should point out, what did my data show? I don't want to go back to the other spot, but I had some notes written down. I didn't highlight it, but neither pitcher is amazing in this matchup. Maybe it's I'm on the fence on that. It's the Battle of Texas here. We got Dallas Fort Worth, your Texas Rangers versus your Houston Astros. Yeah, the over/under is only 8. You know what? We're just going to hold off on that one. I think that was my ultimate decision. Is you get a mixed bag with these pitchers, to be honest. Yankees at Chicago running the first. Don't hate it. The only thing I'm going to say that I don't love and why I have this as a void. Chicago's the most wind affected ballpark there is. There's rain in the area. The wind looks like it's going slightly in. It's more left to right. But we did the whole bass fishing analogy. Like, I think there's some look, I'm a Midwest guy and it's been raining all morning here. Chicago weather and our weather run pretty close together. I think I'm avoiding this game purely because rain's getting a lot of energy out of the atmosphere. Again, the atmosphere is a little different today. So I'm not screaming that one. The one that I wanted to look up and I was just curious about was the Nerfy. And in this one, we're giving both teams to score in the first a 41% chance. I mean, again, I hate to say this, but St. Louis is cold as ice. They're just cold. We've scored in the first inning 4 of our last 15 games. Toronto, 3 of their last 15. Blending this together, we think 41% of the time. We give this a quiet tag. Dylan Cease, a first inning run in 37% of his starts. Look, Dylan Cease, right? Like, let's just talk about it. Dylan Cease, baller, right? Guy is crushing it. Started the All-Star game, pitching even better since the All-Star game. So, I mean, we talk about his 19 starts. I'd love to know maybe what his last 5 starts are. Cal Leahy has been one of the Cardinals' best pitchers, and he gets through the first inning clean 16% of the time. And let's be clear, Toronto's offense kind of sucks, in my opinion. So, I was kind of hoping this was going to tell me this was the move. I'm not a big Yerfy Nerfy guy. It is minus 125, which I'm not as in love with. If we're looking at Yerfy land, Minnesota at Seattle, I also think this one's interesting. And why? Minnesota's and Seattle's offenses both just suck right now. Let's be clear. And you do have a mixed game here of I think Zebby Matthews and I think it's Bryce Miller. I think is who that is. They both have they're both pitchers that have been formidable. These guys pitch a lot for these teams. Oh shit, there it is right there, Bryce and Zebby. So minus 125, same odds. We actually give this one a better rating for either team to score first. So look, this is why you use the software. I was kind of leaning towards, the St. Louis one, but if I'm getting the same odds, honestly, if you wanted to go nerfy yerfy, kind of like this one. One thing I'm not seeing on here, so my dev is clearly listening to me today, one of the devs, and I think what I'd like to see added to this is, what do we think on the EV value? Could we get the site to compute this and add EV to this? And so what are we going to do with all this? We're just highlighting. And every time I'm on here, I really should pick up something else to show you folks. Let's talk about this. Did you know that we literally offer salary cap lineups, and I haven't given you a single day of that? So we might make that something here over the weekend to talk about playing DFS. But today we're showing you a little bit about Yerfy Nerfy land. And I would not call today a nerfy day. Even though we do have a lean here, I'm not going out of my way, I feel, to bet the over. If anything, what I was hoping to see was us say that we lean to the under based on the odds. I think we want to add the EV addition to this. So I bet you folks are going to see that here in the near future. Let's go back to our board. All of our boards are right here, all the different versions we have. And why did I point that out right off the bat? Top play of the day, Dylan C. strikeouts. Now, here's the thing. I don't hate this. The Cardinals don't do much well. We're in a funk. We strike out more often to a right-hand pitcher versus a left-hand pitcher. But what I will say is that I just don't necessarily think I love us striking out in this matchup. And so the data is telling me I'm wrong. So there you go. I mean, look, Cardinals are in a funk. What I do like I said, is I like him to limit the Cardinal offense. And in fact, let's just talk about, because I did have this as a prop look. So let's just look at what Dylan C's props are available to us today. What I will say for sure is that the Cardinals, sure as F, aren't scoring runs against this guy as it stands right now. We just aren't. So him to get strikeouts, the site loves it. We're getting plus EV. We're not really looking at either of these other props, but let's look at his under. Maybe the one I think I was maybe more leaning towards is his under on earned runs. So we're really pushing this. We're saying the Cardinals are only going to get 1.5 runs against him. Not necessarily showing this as positive EV. We're showing this as about a 46% sim prob. The problem with this is that this is more of a recent form issue to me. We look at his last starts. The bar doesn't even show up because he literally got 0, 3, 0, 0. So 3 of his last 4 games, you hit it. He had a bad outing against Texas, 2 against Houston. So, facing some pretty formidable offenses in Tampa Bay and Houston, the chase rate's up. I was kind of hoping that the site was going to show me a little more on this one. What I can say is that, and I should have left the screen up to give this time. I don't know if it was going to offer us an alt line on 2.5. I'm just curious. Like you go to 2.5 on this. This is night and day. But again, baseball binary is that the odds just probably get milked terribly. Yeah. So we go from plus 116, which again says, what's the difference between 1.5 and 2.5? Plus 116 minus 219. What can I tell you on this one? The under of this game is literally 7.5. So Vegas has kind of got this one a bit priced in. By the way, Cardinals last 5. I wrote this down just because I knew I had interest in Cease versus the Cardinals. Cardinals 2 runs scored, 3-2-1-3. So let's look at one last prop here. Just curious. St. Louis. St. Louis under 3.5 runs. We have not gone over 3 runs in a single game. Minus 145 on DraftKings for the Cardinals to score 3 or under. Jumping all over the place today. Jumping all over the place today. And I'm running out of time. It's after 9 o'clock Central. So we might, because tomorrow is really our kickoff day, is when you're going to see me really give you a much more, a more full analysis. What am I really looking at here? St. Louis to beat Toronto. Not going to happen, right? St. Louis to score under 3.5 runs. I will tell you that what we talk about are parlays. Would you parlay under 3.5 runs with Dylan Cease under 2.5 runs? Yes, but a lot of these sites will not let you combine that as a parlay. Why did I bring up our incredible site that has every detail in the world? What do we know right now? 84 score to this starter, 72 score to the bullpen. Sheesh, right? I mean, I don't see us scoring runs this game. I really don't. Again, going to the run line. And I've, again, butchered this because I've got, there we go. You know, they don't love Toronto with the run line because Toronto's offense sucks too. So the under of the game, I mean, 7.5 is so low. But that's interesting that it's 7.5 and St. Louis is 3.5. So we're going to go ahead and go with the Cardinals under. I think is my, I don't like Cease under 1.5 because it's just a little too glitchy, if that makes sense. You can get a glitch and somehow we get lucky. But between this and the bullpen, I'm going to go ahead and give us a 3/4 unit play. I wish I had a boost tied to this, and I don't. But this, this is your Kyle Cease, strong bullpen, shitty ballpark. Toronto's not a ballpark for runs. I mean, team slumping. Everything points to me that, that's where we're at. So that's my backwards Kyle Cease prop of the day offer for you there. For you to play his strikeouts, I'm not going to hate that. Look, our site likes it. Clearly. Our site likes it. Let's go ahead and go down the line here. By the way, I forgot to totally mention this. One of the problems when you bet early in the day before lineups are released, another quick lesson, and we might just have to move on. I might have to look at some more plays later. One of the lessons I want to talk about in betting, we popped up the starter for Washington to get strikeouts. And it was a rushed bet I made. And again, that's why I'm not going to offer any more plays today. We're going live August 1st. We're going to really give you some good details here over the weekend. We're going to spend a pretty good chunk of time together. I talked about, I'm going to go with the pitchers over because Austin Riley is sucking so terribly for Atlanta The guy was striking out 3 times a game. And so I'm banking on our pitcher for the bet I'm going to make that we were favoriting was using the fact that Austin Riley has played every day. I haven't seen him sit out a game. I look at lineups daily. Austin Riley is a fixture of the Atlanta lineup. And what do you know? They literally pull Austin Riley out of the lineup. He is sucking so bad Atlanta yanked him. Atlanta's trying. I don't know if you know the contract. You might want to do a little research on this, but they're way overpaying this guy. He had one game where he hit 2 home runs in the game. They tried to put him in 4th in the lineup. They're doing everything they can to give this guy some confidence. They put him in the cleanup spot. He sucks again. He has sucked ever since, to now where they just took him out of the lineup. The minute I saw the game hadn't even started, I saw the lineup and my heart sank. I was like, okay, well, I get the Austin Riley prop money back because he's just not playing. But I knew that my strikeout prop was fucked, instantly fucked, because I like this guy. That there was 2 strikeouts right there of the 4 strikeouts I needed. I just lost 2 strikeouts. So anywho, what's the point of that lesson? Sometimes it does pay. Betting early does sometimes give you better CLV, but waiting till lineups are released are sometimes going to be your best odd there. Why, by the way, it's kind of interesting. Why am I hesitant to bet Pittsburgh and Cincinnati? We talked about the Paul Skeens effect. He's Paul Skeens. Hunter Green, man, this kid's got some talent. This is a young upcoming prospect. We like him on strikeouts here. We're giving this a +5 favorable matchup. What does this just tell me again? It just tells me avoid this game. This could absolutely be a pitcher's duel, but it's also a park that has tons of offense. It's the easiest park to hit in all of baseball. And the wind conditions and what have you are favorable. The run line's 8. So sometimes pointing out props aren't just to bet. It's to support why you shouldn't bet. And in this game, I just think there's too many X factors. Paul Skeens, not quite what he's been. Hunter Green looks like this kid could have some talent. It's hard to say. So at the end of the day, there's no harm in not betting. And that's kind of was my final take on that. It was also kind of interesting when we're going to plus EV and elite matchups. I hadn't been on here yet today. So far, right, I have hardly scrolled down at all. The only thing I'm seeing is that pitcher strikeouts, right? I was bringing up the Houston to score runs in the first inning was our highlight, but we also think that Nathan Eovaldi is going to help strike out a lot of Houston batters. I don't know if I love this. This game's kind of interesting. We like Peralta to get lit up by Miami. I do have that one kind of, don't love the park. The weather's actually fair. These are pitchers that are a bit hittable, but we're only giving that a 44% chance. But look at this. I'm scrolling down. Our first total bases that popped up is this one. And I don't even think this kid's starting. Strikeouts. There's our first one. Dylan Dingler to hit Jeffrey Springs. We like that one. Now, I can tell you that we're going to get off because, to be honest, I have a busy Friday ahead of me, folks. So I got to go. I wish I could give you some more plays. Here's what I can tell you. The bottom line is what I want you guys to do. I want you to sign up for the Edgeboard. Get 3 days free. And I want you to research these Detroit bats against Oakland. All right. I've made that clear. I don't have time to go through these with you today. Find you some good Detroit bats versus Oakland. Dylan Dingler's not a good hit for average guy, but he is a good power guy. Again, 90 degrees, wind slightly out in a AAA ballpark that they have Oakland stuck in until they move these folks to Vegas. So Detroit to clobber this guy, I think has some very real potential. Look at this. Speaking of the devil, right? Now that's funny, right? We brought that up. So do they stick Austin Riley back in the lineup because it's a righty versus a lefty matchup? I mean, I might be betting this again. If you're literally giving me plus 232, this is so funny. that I brought this up. I mean, his career against Foster Griffin, he's faced him 5 times, hasn't got a single hit off him, and struck out twice. We sticking this clown back in the lineup? Are we daring to do that? All right, sure. All right, there's a play for you. There's a light sprinkle. There's a light sprinkle for you, folks. You never want to put much on 2 strikeouts, right? Like it really is a play. What do we treat it like home runs, honestly, right? The software says this has a 1/3% chance of happening. But again, what's my storyline here? My storyline is Foster Griffin's going to get some strikeouts against these guys. I might want to go back and look at that. Atlanta doesn't strike out a ton in general, but boy, oh boy, does this guy. Again, Atlanta didn't strike out last night. I lost that prop, but I tell you who does strike out. We're just going to put us a sprinkle here. We're going to get us a quarter unit at plus 232 on DraftKings. Hell yeah. Why not? Screw you, Austin Riley. Get your butt back in the lineup. What we want to do here is we really just want to focus on some specific teams that I think match up well for power. So, what are some plays I'm going to be making later that I want you guys to look at? I'm definitely going to be looking at some Washington bats. And again, the data might not always have these as pure favorable plays because you've got 2 versions of Bryce Eldridge. So I'm going to talk to my dev. We talked about something that talks about cold pitchers, and I need to see exactly where that is in our software. So I'm going to be looking at some Washington lefties. They've been hot. Again, I hit Luis Garcia yesterday. Dalen Lyle hit 2 home runs yesterday. Their lefties are just, man, what a lineup of lefties. And I think it matches up well in the conditions we have. I'm going to look at this Kansas City, Colorado under. I want to do a little more research into that. I want to look at our Milwaukee lefties against Ryan Johnson. I think you're going to, I don't necessarily think this is a power play, but I think this is a scoring runs and hit some for some bases play. And then we're going to look at Detroit. So these are probably the ones I'd urge you sign up for the Edgeboard, get that 3 days free, get that 25% off. And then let's just go down the line and just see what we can't find for some good hitter props. What are we saying right off the bat, just from a favorable prop standpoint that's also supporting why we think there's going to be some dominance here? Shane Drohan dominating LA, Casey Mize dominating Oakland. Interesting again that's some of your highlight, but again, it is an interesting matchup. Riley Green, lefty on lefty, that's the part you don't love as much, right? 218 versus lefty. So yes, is it favorable because this pitcher sucks? It does, but 7 at bats, 0 hits. So these are the things you got to expand the data, look at it. This isn't elite. I've got this just marked favorable, which means if we just think there's more favorable than not. What could happen here is Riley Green does touch one off on Jeffrey Springs, and if he does, he probably smokes it. And again, what did I not love about this? A lot of Detroit is again left-handed, so we are looking left on left. 263 against lefty, don't love it, right? Hasn't necessarily scored a ton of runs. You really just got to look at this from that perspective, right? We just got to decide what does stand out to us. We're seeing some of these bats pop up, right? That we think, Bryce Terang, 298 versus right-handed pitchers, hits his pitch type well. These are the ones that you just want to kind of pick out, look at, see where you're getting EV against this guy. 270 versus righties. Again, terrible pitcher, has hit this guy before, very limited sample size. So these are the bets we're going to be, really kind of taking our feels on. Again, not great. Average. The wife is yelling at me. We got to get our butt going. She's actually taking me to work today. So folks, that's the end of the stream. That's going to be what I'd say. What is interesting, and here's what I will say. This is interesting, and this is what I was fearing, and I think this is where you got to kind of know baseball a little bit, know know your know what's going on. The Bryce Elder full picture is a good picture. His recent form is not. So look how far we're scrolling down here. No Washington players are popping up. I think that's where that one's tough. I'm going to have to look at that one a little further and just figure out what on earth is going on here. Why do we not like Washington batters? Maybe it's going to talk me off this play a little bit. Yeah, we don't have a single Washington favorable matchup against him. So look, folks, that's going to be the end of the stream. That's the research I want you to do. Edgeboard.com, 3 days free, 25% off your initial plan. That, by the way, will be grandfathered in as long as you're a member of the Edgeboard. Peace. I'm out of here. Tomorrow, we're going to go even more into detail. You're going to get a full game slate from me as we are officially live August 1st.